Hello again, I am Blunty. So Google have finally taken the wraps off something they've been teasing and we've all been anticipating for quite some time now. Their new game streaming as a streaming game service. And they're calling it Stadia, Salvia, something that sounds like an artificial sweetener or possibly a diabetes medicine or something like that. Let me check my notes. Stadia! It's called Stadia. Hands up in the down below area if you hate the name, and keep your hands up if you also hate the logo, which really seems like something right out of 1994. It reminds me of the old Blink video logo. Remember that thing? It's like that. It just seems dated already, which is weird because it's like cutting edge technology. So let's go over the basics for those who aren't deeply familiar with what's going on here. Stadia, Salvia, Stadia. Why didn't they just call it Google Gaming or something? The idea is they run a bunch of games at very high quality settings, up to 4K and stuff like that. And instead of them running on a box sitting on your home connected to a screen of some kind, it runs in the cloud, which is a term I hate because when you start thinking of the cloud, but you replace it with what it actually is, someone else's computer, when you see things on service websites like all your data is kept in the cloud, which sounds like a fantastic thing. You can have your data anywhere you like. But when you think about what it actually means is all your data is kept on someone else's computer. Rubs me the wrong way. Fortunately, this isn't one of those issues because it's not really your data. It's just a game running over there on someone else's computer. And that's fine. That's more useful. It does have a few drawbacks, and we'll come to that, but it has a few positives as well. Number one, of course, you don't have to buy and own your own box to plug into your TV. You don't even have to fiddle with any extra cables and stuff like that. So it's cleaner, it's tidier, it's cheaper, although we'll come back to that again. And you don't have to update it every 5-7 years, or in the case of computer, maybe every 3 years, because those of us who like PC gaming get the itch pretty early compared to console gamers. Is one of the drawbacks of PC gaming, as opposed to all of the wonderful positives, of course. PC Master Race. And the benefit of running your games on someone else's computer and just pulling the game to you through an internet connection is you never have to worry about like buying the game, installing the game, waiting for that 70 gigabyte day one patch or any other patch that comes along. That's all done automatically for you on the other end. You never have to wait for that crap. It just happens over there. And when you want to play, you click a button and you're playing instantly. It loads up very, very quick because Google have got this. They haven't been super clear on exactly what technology and hardware they're using, but they've given us enough hints to know that it should be pretty damn quick. They're using some sort of presumably Intel server-side CPU, and we think it's Intel because they use the phrase hyper-threading, and on AMD's that's not called hyper-threading, it's called something slightly different, same technology, but they're using AMD graphics cards, and it seems like it's something around about a Vega 56 kind of level, which is pretty good because that's a damn fine graphics card. Tons of memory, lots and lots of very fast SSD, and they say they can even stack these. So if there's a super duper shiny game or something you want to run at sort of 4K 60 frames a second, they can stack one of these instances on top of the other and sort of sandwich them together, or 3 or 4, and get sort of insane levels of performance. We don't yet know if there's going to be sort of an extra cost associated with that if you want to do that. It's probably going to be like a Netflix style tier thing where you pay $5 a month for the basic level and you get 1080p 30 gaming or something, and then you pay more and more and more if you want 1080p 60 or 1440p or 4K, sort of a premium level membership kind of thing going on there. Because that's the other side of this coin. Number one, you don't have to have your own hardware. It loads up really, really fast. You get sort of premium level gaming experience, all that sort of stuff. But you do have to rent it. It is a service. And I don't like that idea. I like to buy my games so I can own my, or at least not own my games, but own the license to play my games. But if I have it in physical form or even in a library form on a service that's not going to disappear on us, like some have, I can play it whenever I like. I don't have to keep paying for the privilege of access to this game. I pay once and have access to it for as long as that platform survives. With Google Stadia, Salvia, Stadia, I'll get it right one of these times. I've made the joke too many times in recording this now, it's stuck in my head. I'm never going to get it right again in my life. Google Stadia. If you stop paying, you don't have your games anymore. On the one hand, maybe that's cool and convenient. On the other hand, maybe that's just a really crappy way to do. I think what I'm going to do, if it ever comes to Australia, because I've read through a couple of different articles so far, and they say it's coming to the US and Europe and the UK, I think, and then, well, I mean, the UK's in Europe, but kind of Brexit. But I saw no mention of Australia anywhere, which kind of makes sense because the internet infrastructure in Australia is hardly world leading. So whether or not this thing actually comes to Australia anytime soon and I get to test it for myself, who knows? I have tested other products in this type of thing because, of course, this isn't new. This isn't a brand new idea. It's not even a new implementation of the idea. It is just an evolution, Google's version of this. And I've played with this before in the form of NVIDIA's game streaming service. And I did this at E3 4 years ago, or whatever it was, when I went there, sponsored by NVIDIA. And we were sitting in the hotel room and we decided just to see if it worked over the hotel Wi-Fi. And it did. It worked very well. I played some racing games. I played some Tomb Raider and things like that. And it worked perfectly well. I was surprised about how well it worked. And that was back then, you know, half a decade ago or so. NVIDIA's already running commercial service of it on hotel Wi-Fi. So in theory, Google's versions should run really quite well. They're stacking it on top of the video encoding stuff they've built for YouTube, apparently, which I don't know if this is the best thing ever they've ever thought of, because YouTube's compression is not good. Another thing to think about is game publishers are probably going to like this idea because it is kind of the ultimate DRM and the ultimate cheat protection possible, because you've got the front end of the game in your face. You don't have access to the files. So in the world of PC gaming, that basically eliminates cheating. It also eliminates modding, by the way, which is another thing I don't like about this, because modding your games is one of the best things about being a PC gamer. Once you've gotten bored of any particular game, well, not any particular game, but lots of different kinds of games, once you get bored of that, Skyrim is a classic example. Very old game by today's standards, but people are still playing it because there's just mod after mod after mod. Fallout 4, same kind of thing. Another Bethesda example. Even Minecraft. Without modding, a lot of PC games would already be dead and forgotten because modding keeps that scene alive. I don't know whether publishers care too much about that, because does modding sell any more games? Maybe. Cheating, on the other hand, they should care about very deeply, because cheating can actually just completely ruin a gaming experience and drive people away from games. Absolutely. Particularly, the PUBG and Fortnite and Apex Legends style games where it's sort of highly competitive, short burst gaming and things like that. And cheating can just ruin the experience completely. You can just get so fed up with being, sniped from a cheater from, 70,000 light years away on the map using auto aim, things like that. It's just, you just go, fuck, I can't deal with this. I don't want to play this game anymore. It's not until they do something about cheaters. I don't want to play this game. And with cloud-based gaming, cheating becomes basically a non-issue. But the main issue that we're worried about here is because the game's coming to you over the interweb nets, you have to consider latency. When you've got a box plugged into a screen, that latency is not very big at all. Even if it's plugged into a TV screen, which most of them have their own sort of inbuilt processing, which adds a bunch of latency as well, that's why they've got game modes to try and strip that away and things like that. And when you're on a PC, there's this tiny amount of latency compared to console gaming and things like that. You've got input latency and then latency on the screens and everything. And you take input latency and the latency on the screens and you add that to internet latency, and it could possibly ruin some gaming experiences, especially in very competitive stuff, like shooters, driving games, things that rely on fast twitch response times and things like that. I mean, your average turn-based RPG, even an action RPG, you probably get away with pretty fine. Things like Tomb Raider, like I was talking about before, when I played that on the GeForce Now thing, that was playable. I mean, you could sense the lag, but it didn't impact the gameplay because, I mean, a lot of games that are built like that and built for consoles kind of take a little bit of latency into mind. But with the internet pulling your game down, not only do you have just inherently more latency because it has to get from way over there through an fiber optic cable or copper or whatever, and then get to you and then get processed at your end, and then your inputs have to go through the same thing. Your inputs get sort of pulled in by whatever device you're playing on, then they're packaged up and then they're squirted across to the machine, and then the inputs happen and then they come back to you, and then you see what your inputs did, and that's a big distance over an unreliable connection. And I don't mean unreliable like it can drop out. I mean, your internet can be fine. You could go for months on end without ever a dropout. But when I say unreliable, what I mean is the latency is unreliable. It depends on time of day. It depends on the condition of the equipment. It depends on how many people are trying to share that same bandwidth all at the same time. And those of you on fiber optic connections will know this. There are peak times during the day, usually on evenings when people get home from work. Your speeds just drop to crap. And just latency just spikes massively, and even in ideal conditions, latency can be variable. Even if you've got a wonderful connection, you're gaming at 3 a.m. when no one else is anywhere near you on the internet doing anything important, latency will still wibble and wobble. It's just the nature of these connections. It has to go from there to way over there and back again through God knows how many nodes and pieces of equipment and things like that. And the point is, it is not by any stretch of the imagination going to be the ideal way to play quite a lot of games that rely on gaming stuff like interaction. That combined with the fact that it's being ground up and spat out through YouTube's compression. Oh no. Just no. There's no benefit to streaming or pulling a game down through a stream at 4K if the compression is just going to crush it down to what it would look like if it was like 1080p anyway. And this is especially true in high motion games. I mean, we've all seen it here on YouTube videos. I've shown it in tests when I do the OBS comparison stuff, where I compare bandwidth from one to the other, and there's videos that I've done out there with side-by-side examples of what bandwidth and different levels of compression can do to detail and high motion things. Now, sure, the implementation that Google are using is using higher bandwidths than the OBS stuff I was showing, for example, and things like that. But the basics are still the same. If you compress a signal, it is inherently lossy. This video compression signal is sending it has to be lossy. You are losing information. You are losing detail. You are losing color depth. You are losing definition. It will never, ever, ever actually be a replacement for just gaming here with a box connected to a screen. That said, it may be a decent way, and this is the way I'm going to look at it if the service ever comes to Australia, as a monthly rental service kind of thing. It will let me try games out before I buy. So if I'm a bit airy about a game, I want to try it, or someone says, hey, have you ever played this game? I go, well, no, I haven't, but I can't be bothered just paying full price to try this old game. I can play it on this Google service. Or games that I have no intent of buying, but I want to play because, say I don't want to buy them because I don't think there is a good enough value proposition there. So it's a $90 game, and it's got 8 hours of gameplay. There was a game launched recently that was like that. I can't remember what it was, but it was like a premium price game. It was like $90 or something. And it had like maybe 12 hours of gameplay in it. I was just like, no, I'm not playing that. No. I mean, I'm not one of those people who do, dollar per hour value propositions against games. That was an extreme example. It was a bit ridiculous. I was like, no, if it was on this service and I was paying $5 a month anyway for this service, then yeah, maybe I would have played that game. But that's kind of my, I hate this term as well, cloud computing and hot take. I hate those games, but I suppose this is what would you classify as a hot take. I've seen the news and I have opinions, and I've spouted the opinions to other people to see if they share those opinions, or their opinions are slightly different than me, or they have some counter arguments or whatnot. This is an interactive thing here. So it's your turn now to tell me what you think. And while you're at it, head down there and click the subscribe button if you haven't already. Click the bell if you haven't already. Do the thumb thing if you haven't already. Leave a comment and go over to my Twitch and subscribe. And generally, thank you very much for watching. I am Blunty, and we'll catch you next time and do the things and stuff.